As the new king or queen, I am very aware of this great gift and the tasks and heavy responsibilities that come with it. One of the main goals has always been to have someone who kind of represents what you think your country stands for. The royal family has always kept a lot of things hidden. There are stories that no one ever tells that go along with the big buildings, shiny crowns, and big events. Up until now. Today something really strange is going to happen. King Charles and his sister Princess Anne are ready to talk about their feelings for the first time. The monarch and the law that supports the monarchy are the most important parts of this. As a family, we see ourselves as theirs to help them do that. You did hear that right? They'll finally tell us everything. But why now? What are they going to talk about? That's why we're here. Charles and Anne have been through a lot together. They were born into a world with rules and cameras. However, they were just a brother and sister who grew up in a very different kind of home. A family where feelings were kept inside and duty always came first. They had to smile when they didn't want to as kids. When they wanted to talk, they had to be quiet. After all these years, they're finally ready to talk like regular people, not royals. That's not all this video is about. It's about telling the truth. It's about family. It's also about two people who have been there for each other through good times and bad, and who are now finally telling the truth. Get a cup of tea, settle down, and stay with us until the end. You will never see the royal family the same way again after hearing what King Charles and Princess Anne have to say. Growing up inside the palace walls, people outside of Charles and Anne's family thought they were born into a fairy tale. The queen, who was their mother, was one of the most famous women in the world. Their king grandpa lived long ago. They had servants, shiny crowns, and royal customs that went back hundreds of years. They lived in big palaces. People thought their lives were like stories full of happiness, safety, and magic. But the truth was not like that at all. From the moment they were born, Charles and Anne were royal children, not just kids. This meant that they had to follow rules and deal with cameras all the time. They were very picky about everything they did, even when they were little. There was nowhere to make mistakes, throw fits, or play in the mud. They had to smile at the right times, stay still during long royal events, and always be nice. That would be hard for any other kid. But for Charles and Anne, it was just the way things were. Charles carried the most weight because he was the oldest child and the first boy to be born. He was more than just a prince, he would become king one day. Palace workers, tutors, and the media were all very aware of everything he did. The way he spoke, walked, and even breathed had to be right. Even when he was a little boy who liked to draw and climb trees, people thought he would be strong, smart, and powerful. Princess Anne was not like other girls. She was brave and didn't put up with crap from a very young age. Princess Anne has changed so much over the course of her life. She used to be a stubborn child and is now a fierce adult. Princess Anne felt pretty alone as a child because she was the queen's only daughter. Even when things were hard, she was strong and tough. It wasn't easy for her though. Anne had to follow royal rules just like Charles did. She had to listen to hours of lessons on how to be a prince. She had to wear clothes that were too tight and pose for family pictures when all she wanted to do was play outside. She was always told to behave like a good princess. There should be no crying, yelling, or talking back. One hard thing about being kids was that they didn't get to see their parents very often. Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip were very busy. They were always on the go, going to royal events, meeting world leaders, and doing what they had to do for their country. That meant they didn't come home very often. In retrospect, Charles did say that he spent more time with his nanny than with his mother. This was normal for the royal family. Charles and Anne both had to grow up quickly because of this. From a young age they learned how to dress, talk, and act like adults, even though they were still kids. But being independent made me lonely. It was hard to really connect with each other through things like hugs, bedtime stories, and messy family meals. Things had to look great on the outside even if they didn't feel great on the inside. Even though they were younger, often took on the job of protector. She saw how sensitive Charles was and how much he hated being pushed. He wanted a calmer life. It didn't bother her to break the rules a little to make him smile. Anne was there for Charles if he needed to talk. She would wink at him or say something quietly to calm him down if he was scared before something important. She wasn't just his sister behind the palace walls, she was his safe place. There were also times of happiness, of course. They could experience what everyday life was like at the royal grounds such as Balmoral in Scotland. It wasn't a problem for them to play with their dogs, ride horses across fields, or go for long walks at Balmoral. Back then they could be Charles and Anne, not the Prince of Wales and the Princess Royal. They talked about happy times when they splashed around in dirty streams, raced their ponies or roasted marshmallows by the fire. Even those special times didn't last long though. Duty would come calling at some point. Princess Anne became a well-mannered young woman, but she stayed outspoken and determined, combining her sense of duty with her own spirit. There would be another event, another meeting with the press, and another lesson on how to walk, talk, or wave like a king. Charles had the most trouble with everything. He was a quiet, thoughtful kid who liked writing, painting, and being outside. He did not like being in front of a lot of people, giving talks, or being the center of attention. He wanted to be artistic and see the world the way he saw fit. But instead he was made to fit the role of future king that people thought he would play. Anne was not like that. She wasn't as sensitive, and what other people thought didn't bother her. She was smart and determined. She learned how to play the royal game, but she never lost her spark. She was sure of herself and didn't let the crown change that. When you look back, it might seem like a dream to grow up in Buckingham Palace, but behind those fancy doors and titles were just two kids trying to figure out where they fit in the world, find love and attention, and be seen as people instead of symbols. Charles and Anne were changed in every way by those early years. They learned how to be strong, carry on through tough times, and keep secrets. But they also showed them how painful it is to grow up in a society where duty comes before feelings, and how important it is to have someone by your side who gets it. Charles and Anne had each other through it all, a sister and brother through royal storms. The lives of Prince Charles and Princess Anne changed as time went on and the world changed. As adults, they felt the weight of their past lives and the responsibilities of being adults. Now that they were grown up, they were no longer just royal children. They had important names and even more important duties. Charles became the Prince of Wales as he got ready to become king. Anne was given the title of Princess Royal, which is only given to the most feared daughter of a ruler. People paid attention to everything they did. Their names were in the news and pictures of them were in newspapers. However, the attention brought more stress than ever before. Everything looked clean and fine from the outside. They looked good, wore the right clothes, smiled at the right times, and stood tall at important events. But when no one was around, they were still the same brother and sister who had grown up together and knew each other better than anyone else. They didn't always agree with each other. There were differences between them in how they dealt with stress and how they thought royal life should be run. But they valued each other even when they didn't agree. A quiet bond had grown between them over years of going through hard times together and really getting each other. Charles left home to go to a strict school in Scotland called Gordonstown. Anne felt his loss, even though they were used to life apart and having to do their jobs. His going made her life quiet. She saw how the outside world had changed him when he came back to visit. He was more serious and thoughtful after school, but he also stayed away from people more. Anne tried to keep things light, because she is always wise. She made him laugh. William and Kate met for the first time at a polo match. Given how much Charles loves sports and how much Camilla loves horses, this shouldn't be a surprise. Anne always knew though. She didn't judge him like many other people in the royal group did. She didn't scold him or ask him how he felt. When you lived your life in the public eye, she knew better than most how hard it was to love someone without limits. Anne had a similar experience when she fell in love with someone and was told it wasn't right for a queen. During those hard years, their bond grew stronger. They helped each other through messages, quiet talks, and late-night talks. Anne was the one who helped Charles remember who he was when he was hurt and confused. A man with a heart, not just a prince. Then Princess Diana came along and caused a lot of trouble. Everything changed when she became a member of the royal family. More than ever, everyone was looking at Charles. Everyone saw and judged everything he did with Diana, and it was all over the press. Anne, who had never shown her feelings, saw her brother fight in a marriage that a lot of people saw. She made it clear that she didn't always agree with his choices, but she never stopped caring. At the same time that Anne was having her storms, she got married when she was young, and has 2 kids, Peter and Zara. It looked like she would have an easier time becoming queen than her brother did at first, but her marriage didn't last. During their split, Anne and Charles both kept it quiet and polite. The media said bad things about both of them. Both were told they weren't living up to the ideal royal picture, and it hurt to be judged by the public. They never let the weather separate them though. A secret that not many people know is how much Anne helped Charles after Princess Diana died. Diana, Princess of Wales, and her partner, Dodi Fayed, were both killed in a car crash. It looked like paparazzi on 2 motorbikes were chasing them. The whole world was sad. It shook the royal family. Charles was not only sad, but he was also afraid. A lot of people blamed him for things they didn't fully understand, but Anne didn't add to the blame. She stood still next to her brother, without asking for help or praise. She wasn't there as a princess, she was there as his sister, someone who had always known his heart. Like any other family bond, theirs had its ups and downs. There were fights, some small and some big. They didn't always talk a lot. At times things got tense, especially when their royal duties took them in different ways, but they were always loyal, no matter what. It got stronger over time. Charles and Anne stayed in touch through wars, weddings, divorces, deaths, and changes in the crown, the country, and even in their own lives. Not in loud or showy ways, but in really quiet ones. A phone call when you're having a bad day, a shared look across a busy room, or a quick joke when things are too heavy. These little things kept their bond strong. After many years, both are now at the top of the royal family, and have worked hard for decades. The bond between them is still very strong. They aren't always together, but they always look out for each other. They are still brother and sister, even though they have different names and customs. That means everything. Only brothers know these secrets. For some reason, the bond between brothers is very strong. They have known you the longest, and know you the best. The world doesn't get to see the parts of you that they do, the times when you're not trying to hide anything, the private conversations, and the struggles that happen behind closed doors. They know the truth behind the smiles, and the hurt behind the silence. They also understand how deep feelings go in a way that other people might not. It's always been important to Charles and Anne that they understand this. They were raised in the public eye, and were always told to follow family rules, and look their best. But behind those tight rules and well-planned looks, there was a brother and sister, who had shared more than anyone could have imagined. When Charles reached a turning point in his life, it is one of the most private stories that only Anne and Charles know. At one point, the stress of being the heir to the throne seemed too much to handle. He even thought about leaving the royal family, and going to another country, to live a less complicated life away from everyone.